So, how do you add a 2D logo in a 3D environment? There's no punchline. That's actually a serious question. And I'll show you using the Pluralsight icon logo. So obviously the first step is we need to get our logo into Premiere. And I'll do that by just dragging and dropping the icon into my media bin. And I actually came to the assembly workspace so I could see the media bin a little better. Now I'll go back up to the editing tab so we can go into that workspace. And I'll look for it down here now that it's hidden. Bring this up a little bit. All right, double clicked, there it is again. And I'm gonna set it on the very first clip on our timeline here. And notice how when I drag it in, it's going to center itself right into the middle of the shot. Just like any other sort of compositing images that you would add into a sequence in Premiere Pro. So now I'll just give the Branco's Bridge, which is the first layer here, give it a click, and come up to the Effects Control panel, and scroll down a bit. I'll change the pan Y-axis, just to move the camera, and, well, see, the logo is 2D, it's flat. It doesn't know what's going on in this 360 environment. As far as it's concerned, it's just a 2D image living in a 2D world on top of a 2D video. So how do we make it 360 degrees aware instead so that it can interact with this video clip in a 360 degree environment? Here's how. I'm going to come back down to my effects panel by clicking on this guy, effects, type in metal, and come down to the Skybox plugins. And here's the answer. Skybox Project 2D. This plugin allows us to take 2D objects such as this logo and project them into a 360 degree environment. So I'll just drag it right onto the clip, and now we have full control of all of the settings in a 360 degree environment for the Pluralsight logo. So first I'm going to move the degree by scaling it, and this kind of brings it forward and backwards. Easy enough. Now I'll come down to the rotate source, and I'm going to move the source tilt, the x-axis. Notice when I do, it's starting to pan downward like it's looking down at the river. For the source pan y-axis, this allows me to let the logo turn left and right like it's looking at the banks of the river. And of course, if we toggle these together, we can make it do all sorts of cool stuff. Ultimately, what I'm doing now is manipulating the logo in a 3D environment, which, if I set it up correctly, will make the logo look like it was part of the shot to begin with. And what's even cooler is that if our viewer happens to turn their head, the logo is now self-aware to be placed in the 3D world so that it turns, manipulates, and moves according to where the viewer is looking. This is now basically the equivalent of modifying a composite inside of After Effects, but now we can do it inside of Premiere, and now we can do it with 360 degrees of video. So let's come down to the rotate projection. What does this do? This lets us change the actual projection, essentially where it's being placed inside of the shot. And here's an idea. Why don't we move this over towards the bridge? Right over here. And in fact, why don't we make it face parallel to the road itself? Almost like it's looking at the people on the sidewalk. So all I'm doing here is modifying the source tilt and the source pan, also the source roll, which will essentially allow it to roll or twirl. And then I can move the camera around to see if it looks real as I move. Pretty cool. I could even make it a little bigger. Yeah, and that actually looks like it's in the road. And if I move the projection here, I can even make it go into separate lanes on the road. And here's the great part. Now that I've set this up, if I click on the VR projection button and I toggle it off, I'll get that flat image that we saw beforehand. And notice how the logo is laid out inside the image. It looks like it's part of the shot. So ultimately, we've turned this 2D logo into a 3D image and placed it inside of a 360 degree sphere. All with just a couple clicks. It's pretty cool. Oh, looks like that bus is gonna hit the logo. Maybe I'll put them up here. Anyway, you get the idea. Moving around the tilt and the pan axis allows us to literally put this logo into our environment. And here's a fun idea. Perhaps in the next couple shots, I can add this logo and kind of hide it in there, almost like an Easter egg, or like a Where's Waldo hunt. And the objective for the viewer would be to look for the Pluralsight shot by turning their head and looking around until they can find the Pluralsight logo. That's just one single idea for 360-degree video, and I'll be honest, I would totally watch that video and play that game if you were making it. So we've got logos down, but what about text? How does text work? Well, let's check that out next and see how we can manipulate text in this 360 environment.